pleasure to be here with you, Knut.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Why is it important that there are only 21 million Bitcoin?
Well, because scarcity is connected to value in a very specific way. The easiest way to explain that is that value is derived from supply and demand. And demand is always subjective. It comes from within our minds. How we value stuff is entirely up to the human being buying or not buying the thing. But the supply is from the objective realm. So the supply is in reality. So there's only this and that amount of gold in the Earth's crust, for instance. There's only one Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
And there will only ever be a little less than 21 million Bitcoin. So you have this supply demand. You've seen the chart with the two lines crossing one another, and that's where you get the price. The way I see it for Bitcoin, you have a totally limited supply and a demand that can only go up. So theoretically, at least, the price or the purchasing power of a Bitcoin can go up in perpetuity, like forever.
Do you have a price prediction for, I don't know, 6 or 1 year down the line?
No.
Okay,
I don't
want to
price
do
prediction. No.
Exactly.
One BTC will equal one BTC. Like that's my price prediction.
You wrote many books, I actually find out, and when I asked you when did you get into Bitcoin, you said to me it wasn't one day. It was kind of more like a journey that got you. Gradual journey.
And I don't remember the exact point. I know I took a course in 2016, a university course in digital currencies, plural form of the word, and I started writing about Bitcoin actively online in 2017. But I know I knew about Bitcoin earlier than that because I found a rock video of a band I was in from like 2013 where there was a Bitcoin address where you could donate Bitcoin. Of course, there were never any Bitcoins donated, but still, I must have been aware of Bitcoin back in 2013 also, even though I didn't have any.
So tell me a little bit about one of the concepts that you have explained in the book. And many people think today that one of the ways to become wealthier or to save for the future is actually to save fiat. Put them aside, and that way you can kind of build a pile that in the future will allow you to do things and to have a sense of security. But actually with inflation and with all the failure of the current monetary systems, there are problems that people should consider. So what you think about saving fiat is probably not going to get the outcome that you think in the future. And how do you think about saving time and energy?
So the problem with fiat, and the fact that you cannot save in it because its value gets diluted over time because someone gets to print more of it, everything else in society becomes money instead. Every other scarce asset. So
Picasso, for example.
Picasso, fine art, real estate, equity in different companies, and whatever. All of the other stuff becomes money. And that is very unfortunate because a house is not very usable as money. It will somewhat store your value over time, but it's not very divisible. It's not very fungible. It's not very, easy to
exchangeable.
Exchangeable is the word. Yeah. So the fact that money has lost its function as a medium of exchange over time is very unfortunate. And all of this is done more or less purposefully by bad actors. So in the beginning, the dollar bill or the monetary bill was just a receipt for some commodity in some vault somewhere, usually gold. And if you use that receipt to receive the gold back, if you can't receive the same amount as you put into the vault, then someone stole part of that receipt. So all fiat money is fraudulent receipts. Like it's not legit in any way, shape, or form. Someone is stealing from you. Like every time you're using fiat money, someone is stealing something from someone, since they can print them. So what's basically happening with the everything bubble, everything else going up in value, is that people that are already on the market and can get the loans and whatnot, people who already have stuff, are getting richer, and younger people in general younger generations who can never get into the market, they get poorer and poorer. Basically, it gets more and more expensive to be poor and more cheap to be rich, which is like funneling wealth from the lower and middle classes into the elites of the world.
It's so sad. I mean,
it's very sad, and it's like this mechanism that so few people seem to understand. Only Bitcoiners understand it, but it's the main driving force of why there are such big gaps between the wealthy and the poor in the world.
And also,
it's tragic.
Yeah, it's tragic. And one of the things that is really sad is that they don't teach you what really money is at school. They teach you everything. I mean, I studied Greek, I studied Latin, and that was actually great to open my mind. Yeah. But teaching about money is very important.
But the reason that is, keep in mind that most of the schools and the decisions about what goes into the school curricula or not are decisions made by the same people who are responsible for printing the money and diluting the value of the money, i.e. the government. So as long as the schools are government funded, the students are never going to hear about these problems, because you don't bite the hand that feeds you. That's not how the world works. So I mean, I don't think every teacher and every politician on every level are like deliberately keeping information away from people, but the mechanism is there.
It's how the business, how the system is structured.
It's how the system. It's a systematic error and a problem with the system as a whole, and it's tragic. But hey, we have the solution now. We have Bitcoin, which is money in a very different way. It's just an agreement on a fixed set of rules between people. And the reason we agree on this fixed set of rules is that these rules are more expensive to try to break than to just follow. And that is what allows for this absolutely finite 21 million number to exist, which we can organize ourselves around.
Yeah.
So that's what makes Bitcoin so fantastic. It's grassroots, it's super grassroots. It even is us. Like if you know that you can't really own a Bitcoin or even possess a Bitcoin, all you can do is know the private key. Knowing is owning in this world.
Knowing is owning.
And the only ownership that is implied is that you know that the possibility that someone else also knows the same key as you do is the probability that is true is so low, so it's effectively owning the thing.
Yeah.
But all you're really doing is keeping a secret from someone. So either if you know your 12 words, or if you know the actual private key, or if you know the location to the private key and a passphrase or whatever it is, that information that unlocks the Bitcoin is in your head.
Yeah.
So the Satoshis don't even exist online. Everything online can be copied. All the code can be copied. All the numbers can be copied. The Satoshis live inside you. They're in your head.
We are all Satoshis.
We are all Satoshis.
We are all Satoshis.
Yes, we're not all Satoshi. Some guy is Satoshi. But we're all Satoshis. We're all the Sats. We are the network, literally.
Yeah, so many people, they are watching our show. They might not be in crypto or in Bitcoin yet. And maybe what they are doing...
Hopefully they'll never be in crypto.
Exactly. And they are basically, saving in fiat. They are working hard to probably hope to buy a house with their partners in a few years. Why those people should look at Bitcoin?
Because before Bitcoin, it was taking out a huge mortgage to buy a house was the clever thing to do, because over time the loan would decrease in value and the house would stay the same in value. One house equals one house. So that was the clever move. But now we have an asset that is better in every way than owning a house. So the likelihood, it's very likely that Bitcoin will outpace real estate in terms of how fast they go up in value over time over the next 10 years. Which means that owning a house is not a sound economic decision anymore, especially not taking out a mortgage to own a house. The sound economic decision is to acquire as many Bitcoin as you can as fast as possible and don't spend them. and then rent the house instead and keep the Bitcoin stack. Like that's how you win this game. Because the rules of the game are completely changed since the introduction of Bitcoin.
And the only things that people need to do is actually to get educated and come to many of these events.
Start measuring prices in Bitcoin. Start measuring things in Satoshis. That's the key to understanding how this works and how it can help you. But if you're still in a fiat mindset, if you're in it for the fiat gains, then you don't understand what game you're playing. This is way deeper than that.
What are your plans for the next book, or what else interesting project you're working on?
I'm working on a couple of things right now. There is another book coming at some point, but right now we just released the Inverse of Clown World. Me and my podcast co-host and co-author Luke the Wolf, which is more toxic, more funny and more deep than anything I've ever done before, so I'm very proud of that. But we just released it last month, so I'm now doing the promo tour here, if you will, and doing the whole conference gauntlet, chilling the book and getting it out to people, because I want people to read it.
So sometimes, like people, they are not into the space. They want to kind of a book that is accessible to them and is not so serious, but still get the things inside the head.
I think, like, in order to understand Bitcoin, you need to understand what problem it solves.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you might fall for obvious scams such as crypto or rare sats or some bullshit. Because the problem, it's so simple. Like, ask yourself the really simple questions. So, for instance, if a human being practices doing something, do they usually get better or worse at that something they're practicing?
They get better.
Yes. So why are prices not going down forever? And the answer to that is that because someone is printing money.
Yeah, because of that.
And if you're measuring the world through Bitcoin, and if you measure in Satoshis, prices are going down forever. Which is like mindfuck. You're a completely different view of the world. You can actually now measure value with, I mean, money is not a yardstick, but still, we've got something now to measure value by that truthfully reflects human beings getting better at doing stuff over time, which is the growth of the economy. That's just people getting better at doing stuff, at producing stuff, at creating stuff, at transporting stuff. All of that is just people getting better at doing things.
Yeah.
And a true money system, a true monetary system would reflect that in ever falling prices. And that's exactly what Bitcoin does.
I've got a question for you. So maybe it could be the topic of your next book. So after 21 million cap supply is reached, what's going to happen to Bitcoin? How do you see the future of Bitcoin beyond that point?
Well, the easy answer is that the fee market will take over, and that's what will incentivize the miners to keep on mining. And it's already happening. Like, fees are a non-neglectable part of the mining revenue already. So that it's simple. The new coin issuance is not that important. Like, if miners can choose to not include that part of the block reward into the block subsidy into the blocks they mine. So they could theoretically already today say, all right, no more Bitcoins, we're not giving ourselves any more money. But they would still be incentivized to mine because they make the fee revenue. So it's not as important for the miners as you may think. And this is also a very common misconception about Bitcoin, is that the miners create the coins. And they don't. The users pay the miners in newly minted Bitcoin to find blocks. So the things that the miners find are blocks, not Bitcoins. The Bitcoins they find are not really found, but paid out to them by the rest of the network. So the users are in charge, and the miners are always the slaves of the users.
Knut, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you.